I went and bought some parts to get this thing going with what's on here. And the crank arm is all chewed up on the back, but I happen to have this smaller bike. It's got 170 cranks versus the 175s. And yeah, I'm going to swap those over. I am going to have to take these shifters, if I can get a good view of it, off, and I actually have a ultrasonic cleaner. I'm going to stick them in them because they seem to be gummed up. I'll show you what I have or dug up for parts. I went and got some 26-inch knobbly tires here. Walmart specials. The local bike shop is closed, so I got a water bottle cage. Got that at the actual bike shop. I've got some more brake derailleur cables, a couple tubes. I have these nice old DX pedals, maybe not era specific, but will do the job since I like to be clipped in. And what I'm digging around for parts now is grips. The grips that are on there, they're not bad, and they'll clean up. And brake pads. I'm having a hard time finding brake pads because they're the Allen head style. There's all sorts of, even Walmart had brake pads, but not like this. They had more V-brake style ones, and they 100% work. It's just won't look as nice as these when they're on there. I'm fortunate to have two bikes, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull them all off and file them down and take the four nicest pads, and I'll be good. I'll be stripping off the reflectors and all of the old school computer stuff. I don't know how much into cleaning I'm going to get, but I am going to take the cassette off, stick that in the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll probably do the same thing with the rear derailleur. I'll look at both derailleurs and see which one's actually in the best shape. It's hard to tell. And like I said, I'm going to pull the shifters off and stick those in the ultrasonic cleaner. And then I will lube them up, because you can't just degrease it. You have to respray lube in there. And everything should function. All right, let me pause this and get set up to start working. Here we go. I'm going to set up my ultrasonic cleaner. I have, well, close to a gallon of water. I don't know how much I'll use. I got some Simple Green. And you really don't need all that much Simple Green. I want to have enough water in there to basically bury the parts, but I'm not putting anything too big in there. So I don't need to have it super deep. And who knows, once I put the parts in, I might. Now when it comes to the Simple Green, I'm just going to give it a couple plugs. You don't really need a lot, because the way the ultrasonic cleaner works is basically it vibrates the water deep into the ant cleaning solution, deep into whatever parts that you have in there. And this ultrasonic cleaner actually has a heat mode, and I'm going to plug it in on my dirty bench. And we have a time and a temp, so I'm going to actually turn this up quite a bit. Let's try 60. And I don't really need the time on. There's a switch on the back. There we go. Now we're heating up. Not really good lighting, I see. But yeah, the shifter, yeah, it won't spring back all the way. And underneath this cap, I'm going to take this off and get you a really good look. This is what the old rapid fire unit looks like. You can see it's all grimy. Need better lighting. Right there where my finger is a pawl. That springs back and forth. And those get gummed up. And you don't get quick engagement, or it skips gears. And another thing is, all inside here is all gummed up, and that's what's making the action. This little thing where my finger is, that's the actual spring to return it. Once I degrease it and re-oil it, it should work nice and fast. Another thing is with these over and under shifters, these bend and they hit each other. So I'm going to have to bend those, pry those apart so there's an actual gap like that. But from using them, you end up pressing down on them. And that also creates a lot of friction. So let's get the other one taken apart and drop them in the planes. There you go. Here's a better view now that I found a light. Focus. Yeah, you could see the little pawls and all the working mechanisms. My camera is not focusing well, but you get the idea. It's pretty much the same as the other one. Is more cylindrical, but this one actually has this back plate, which I took off on the other one. It came right apart. You can see the steam to the left. That is the heated water from the ultrasonic cleaner. When I like to take cassettes off, I like to stick the tool in the vise, and this way I can get my lock ring on. A lot of people will do it on the ground with another wrench, which is fine. And this here, it's just I can less fiddling around doing it this way. This is something that another mechanic showed me when I was fumbling around. Had another, yeah, I was fumbling around with the wheel, two tools, and he's like, no, just do it this way. Boom, get rid of this stupid thing. That won't go back on, even though it's kind of important when you bend the derailleur, it saves your spokes, but I never like the look of them. So here's all my parts. So I have one shifter, two shifters. I will drop them in, then I will show you. Not super hot, but definitely hot. I'll arrange these. I put just enough in there. What else am I missing? I have a quick release. All that will need to get re-oiled. The pivot in here is definitely rusting and binding. And the barrel adjuster is super bent, but a good note, I have another derailleur. There we go. The center part presses up against the spindle. This goes against the crank. So this will go all the way into the crank. And then when you start tightening this, you can see the center part comes up, presses against the spindle, and pushes, well, basically pulls the crank off. And you will strip out the aluminum threads. If you got to make sure that this goes in quite far, if not all the way. And a lot of times with these old aluminum cranks, the threads aren't good on the inside. So you really got to be careful about getting it in straight. This one here is threading in nice and easy, so we're not even going to be using this crank. So press it until it stops. And now it's starting to catch the spindle. There it goes. And you got to watch out, because I've actually pulled aluminum threads out where, there you go. Alright, I got my tools. First I'm going to loosen the non-drive side. It was not that tight, so I am happy that I did it, because that would have creaked on me. This side is the important side to be tight, and it wasn't, so yeah, it needed to be done. I'm going to back this side out. Just a handful of turns. This way I know I can bottom this out against the bottom bracket spindle. Normally it's right, tight, left, loose, but on the drive side of the bottom bracket, especially in the English bottom bracket, it is counterclockwise tight. And you want to make sure that it's tight. If I'm not mistaken, the old numbers are like 45 newton meters or something. I wouldn't. I'd Google it first. Now I can put this back in, and there's no, if it was a creaky bottom bracket, these things would be making noise, but they're not, which tells me that something is rusted or frozen up in there. There we go. Not the smoothest, but not the worst I've ever felt. That is good. Pull the cables off. Front derailleur feels nice and smooth, fairly tight for its style. Let's check the bottom bracket for play, something that I didn't necessarily do. Oh yeah, that thing's solid. Good. Got to figure out how to get these grips off if I want to save them. I'll rinse all this stuff off with some water, and then we will start getting it put onto the bike. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray down all of the parts, because once it dries from the sonic cleaner, you know, it could freeze back up. And I'm just going to get the pivots. I'm not going to get too picky because I just don't feel I need to. But the shifters, on the other hand, I need to get them pretty soaked. And it's hard to do on camera because I'm recording with one hand. And get the chain. The chain was all moving pretty free. I'm not worried about the quick release or even the cassette for that matter, because I'm going to wipe it all down before I put it on. I just want to make sure that I have some penetrating oil in there. And let's get back to the bike. And I got the bottom bracket wiped down. I need to address this. I'm pretty much going to leave the rust. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean out the tapers, put some grease on the tapers, and then press it into the bottom bracket. And then later on, when the bike's all together, I can wash it. And I will set up the camera and we'll continue with the rebuild.